Good afternoon and welcome to this week's edition of Entrepreneurship Matters. My name is Alicia. I'm Vice President for Economic Development for Johns Hopkins University and Johns Hopkins Health System. And I'm so pleased to bring you two women who are in the stationery business. They are both something to write about. And so I'm going to invite Ashleigh Coaxum and Dionisa Ortiz onto the screen and set us up for this conversation in just a moment. We know that successful entrepreneurs, successful businesses are not built in a day. It takes a long-term commitment, multiple failures, a lot of pivots to make it happen. And Ashleigh and Dionisa are no different. Let me give you their bios as they come on screen with me. First, let me introduce you to Ashleigh Coaxum of the Paper Herald. Ashleigh is the founder and owner of the Paper Herald. She is a longtime stationery lover, just like me. I love stationery. She developed her collection while studying abroad in France and through subsequent international travel. She is a native of Washington, D.C. with Baltimore area roots that date back 4 generations. She is excited to bring Paper Herald to life in Baltimore, recognizing the lack of access to specialty stationery in the area. Throughout her professional career, she has had roles in commercial real estate at companies such as SEO, Urban Atlantic, M&T Bank, and Rebuilding Together. After graduating undergrad, she began her career in financial services in New York at Deutsche Bank, and she is a proud graduate of the Spelman College. We have a lot of Spelman sisters on, so they're going to all give you love. And the University of Wisconsin-Madison. You already see it in the chat, where she obtained her Bachelor of Arts in Economics and Masters of Business Administration, respectively. Congratulations, on all of that. We're already seeing this chat's going to be crazy today. I shouldn't have started mentioning Spelman. It's already on. But welcome, Ashleigh. So glad to have you on Entrepreneurship Matters today.
Thank you.
You're welcome. Next, I would like to introduce and present to others Dionisa Ortiz of Willary Lane. She is a New Yorker and born and raised, but moved to Baltimore in late 2006 to be near her close-knit family. As a budding entrepreneur, Dionisa started designing custom invitations for family and friends for years. Since she was a little girl, she always had a passion for paper crafts. I think that's me too. And party planning. She decided to take her paper passion and creative skills to the next level and created her stationery studio in 2010. Attracted to designing outside the box, you're going to get to see both these ladies offerings. I promise you, I had to call a couple people. I was like, you want to not miss this. She wanted to leap into the luxury stationery world. You're going to see why. Continuing to design high quality invitations, she explored other products and materials to create high-end pieces. She rebranded in 2018 and Willary Lane was born. Dionysa's work has been featured in various budding magazines and online blogs. Her custom designs reflect the personal style and vision of her clients. At the heart of what she does, her mission is to capture their love story and passion. Oh, I love that. It's beautiful. And share it through modern and sophisticated design. Welcome, Dionisa. So glad to have you on as well.
Thank you. Thank you.
You're welcome. You're welcome. So you are first entrepreneurs in the stationery business. And I am so excited because I am a lover of stationery, but you are more than what we think of stationery. We're going to get to that in the conversation. But I'd love to start off with what inspired you to want to be entrepreneurs? So how did you think about becoming entrepreneurs? Because clearly you're talented. You are wildly creative, but you didn't have to be an entrepreneur. So how did that come to be? Ashleigh, I'll start with you.
Sure. I think I always knew that I wanted to work for myself. Both my parents are entrepreneurs. My grandfather is an entrepreneur. He likes to say that he had one job, and that was as a paper busboy. And he only worked one day and he hated it and he never wanted to work for anyone else again. So I think I always had that itch. I just really didn't know which path it was going to take. And for a long time, I thought it was real estate because I loved it. My family was in it. And this, I kind of like stumbled into this because I always just had a love for stationery, but never really thought about it as a business until, you know, my husband really pushed me to do it. So I think I always knew that I liked the flexibility of being an entrepreneur and having that ability to kind of chart your own path. And that was always something that I did internally at corporations, but knew in the long term that I wanted to do for myself.
I love it. I love it. And I love how you link it back to like your family's influences, you know, when you were a child, with so many entrepreneurs that say that moment of like seeing an adult do be an entrepreneur really is inspiring. Dionysa, how about you? How did you clearly talented? Very, 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 you're going to see, y'all going to see how talented these women are. Just wait. But you didn't have to be an entrepreneur. So what inspired you to want to be an entrepreneur?
So for me, it was my children inspired me. So, you know, I always, you know, had interest in paper crafts and had a passion for it. But once I started having children, I really wanted that flexibility to be there. Like I wanted to be with my children. And, you know, I had maternity leave for 3 months, and then I had to go back to work. But I had some fulfillment because I had my business on the side. And one day I was hoping to pursue it full time. And then fast forward to now they're teenagers and they started expressing their creative sides. And I was like, wait a minute, they're like creatives like their mom. And, you know, it made me so proud that I wanted to show them like, whatever it is you want to do in life, you can do it. If you want to be a creative, if you want to design, if you want to, you know, make things, you can do that. And so they inspired me to really want to push to do that more. And I also realized that, okay, I have to be that inspiration for them, right? Mm-hmm. I have to show them and be an example. But yeah, it all started with them and just wanting that flexibility. Yeah.
No, it's a good that you're inspired by your children, right? Yeah. And the flexibility, beautifully said. So, okay, so both of you realize I'm going into the stationery business. Like this is what I'm going to do. But take us through like that idea to starting a business, because the distance between those isn't that far, but there are many steps. So why don't you take us through like what come up with the idea? Ashleigh, you said your husband said, yep, this is what I'm supporting you in this. What were the steps you went through? I'll take notes. Don't worry about putting them into steps or anything. I'll take notes and then I'll give them back to everyone that's taking notes on your journey.
Sure, I can kind of go through. So I had this idea originally that, you know, I wanted to open a bookstore. I want to have like my coffee in the morning. I want to drop my kids off. Like I just wanted to pivot from real estate and kind of that grind to do something different. And, you know, when I thought through the bookstore idea, although I love books, I really didn't connect to it as an authentic way. Mm-hmm. In comparison to stationery. And stationery has always been in the background of kind of everything that I've done. You know, mm-hmm. Every time I had a job interview, I wrote handwritten notes. You know, mm-hmm. I've like write them to friends. I've probably saved every card that anyone's ever given me. And it was really just a way from a very young age for me to express my gratitude. Mm-hmm. And have kind of a memorial of that relationship. So it was always in the background, but I never really thought of it as a business. And my husband was the one. He said, you have like all this stationery in your office. Maybe people will like that. Maybe, you know, they'll be interested in that. So I originally thought, okay, well, maybe I can sell stationery online. But I think going back to your, you know, your point about, you know, what drives you to be an entrepreneur, I'm a big problem solver. And one of the big problems that I had with stationery as a consumer was that I couldn't go, feel, and touch the stationery. It's very tactile, very much like real estate. So, you know, I would buy things online and, you know, wasn't really fulfilled necessarily always with what I purchased. So, you know, I said, well, could I open a retail store? Maybe. So, you know, I, you know, hired a realtor and thought through, okay, what does a retail concept look like? went through the leasing process and the zoning process, all the things that in hindsight, real estate really prepared me for. Getting a business license, Google essentially was my friend. I think I Googled how to open a retail store like a million times and had all of these checklists and just kind of like bopped around and asked questions and folks like, who is the next person I should speak to? What's the next thing that I should do? And I think what really helped me in hindsight was that I did not necessarily have an end goal. I knew that I wanted to open a store. However, there were so many steps, and sometimes that's a good thing. That it's more of a marathon because you're so focused on the next best step that you don't get bogged down in I can't. And I think having being in quarantine, being in kind of like lockdown, that really helped me because I was able to focus and just think about what's the next best step. So, everything from, what's the exterior painting going to be? What's my logo going to be? What am I going to carry in the store? I mean, that was really just me thinking about what's the stationery that I like to buy. Selfishly, where do I buy, this stationery were things that I thought about. So a lot of bumping around and guardrails and networking, talking to folks, talking to other business owners about, the small and the large things. I think over time really helped me kind of put my steps together. I don't know if I did them in the perfect way, but here we are.
I love it. I love it. You gave us 8 steps. I took. One, you realized that you were pivoting from your position to another thing, and you realized you connected with something that was authentically your joy. Two, the second step is that, what I call is sometimes it is important to let someone else recognize your gift. And you talked about your husband recognizing that was the stationery was your gift. That's what you code on to them. Third, you looked at the problem that you had as a consumer purchasing stationery online and realized there was a place for you to have a brick and mortar, that it was going to be great for you to have about the place. 4, you did the research on the retail concept. Google was your friend, zoning, business licensing, all of that. 5, you asked questions. And I love how you said, you asked, who is the next person I need to speak with? And what is the next thing I need to know? Which just shows a humility and openness to be able to do that. 6, you focused on, I love this concept, the next best step. It's not about the big, that's how you ran the marathon, the next step. 7th, really focused on, that allowed for you to focus on logo, exterior, and then 8th, really just talking with other business owners, your peer group, really understanding best practices. I took down 8, everyone watching, you may have taken down 9, but I took down 8. Great gems that you just dropped. Dionisa, how about you? How did you talent? The kids are calling you to inspiring you to go out into the world and be an entrepreneur. Tell us the steps you went through.
So, I started with designing and creating things for family and friends, right? Like that's how we all start. And then from there, I was getting positive feedback and I was like, what, this is something I think I really enjoy doing this. And so I started to do research like anybody else, going out there, how to start a business. And I found a free training course in Baltimore. There was a program called Women Entrepreneurs of Baltimore.
Oh yeah, Web.
Yes, Web. And I took their course. I learned how to put together a business plan and I learned how to operate a business, and I went and I started. And then after that, I started focusing on like, okay, now I'm starting to get some clients. I need to put some processes in place. I need to make sure that, how I'm running this business is efficient and effective so that I'm not stressed out about managing all these pieces. And so I started with, I had to get a client contract and I had to find a system where I could manage my clients as well as invoicing, like make sure that flowed. I also worked on setting up my website and opening up social media so that I could promote my work. And once I had all those things in place, it was all about building relationships, right? So I met all these wonderful vendors in the wedding industry in the DMV area, and you start connecting with people, and you cross paths with them all the time. And these are people that they refer you to their clients. These are people that, you know, you refer them to your clients to them. And so, you know, really focusing on building those relationships to gain my clients and grow is where, you know, I started, and then it went from there. So
I love it. I love it. You gave us seven key points. First, you recognized and tapped into your gift, right? You have friends, family. So yeah, I find most entrepreneurs that come on here, their gifts sold before they ever had a business, right? And so that's how you started. Second, you went to the free resource. I know we have a question in the chat, which was Women Entrepreneurs of Baltimore. And that really helped you to do what was 3, build that business plan and really sort of map out what is my gift and my talent. How is that going to become a business? How am I going to make revenue from that? 4th, you built the infrastructure. I love how you talked about being efficient and effective, because you can be in business and not be making money because you're not efficient and effective. 4th, 5th, you talked about management and that infrastructure around invoicing, because it is a danger. Like you said, you love it. You would do it for free. You need to get paid. So really building that, great tip. 6, you set up a website, social media to get your word out there. I think one of the greatest gems you just dropped was around the building of the relationships. And so you created, in many ways, a supply chain infrastructure for yourself that y'all will feed you. You're referring wedding clients, they're referring you business. So you created sort of a business circle for yourself that was going to allow for you to just continue to have revenue. Great gems that people that you are dropping. Everyone, I can see all of your questions. Keep putting them in the chat. Let me tell people how they can also participate if they're listening. You can type 22333, type JHUWL into the message, and then give us your question. I will get that question and pose it to Ashleigh and Dionisa. You can also, I see some of you putting them in the chat on Zoom, and also I see a lot of you putting them in the chat on Facebook. I'm going to get all those questions and weave them into this conversation. Let me ask this question that has been posed in the beginning, which is, you both talked about pivots. You know, from a 9 to 5 and a W-2 to a K-1. K-1's when you're an entrepreneur, you get a nice K-1, you pay like estimated taxes. It's wonderful, it's great. But what made you confident in your professional pivots into entrepreneurship? And no, it's different from going every 2 weeks and getting that paycheck to then thinking about cash flow in a different way. So Ashleigh, how did you have the confidence to make that pivot? And then Dionysa, I'd love for you to reflect upon the same.
I don't necessarily know that I was confident. I'm a little crazy, so I just kind of like go for things and try to like block out distractions. So I don't think I was really that confident, but I knew that I was onto something, because I felt like, you know, in this technology age, people are harkening back to more analog type, you know, kind of leisure, et cetera. So when I mentioned it to family and friends, regardless of age, gender, they love the idea. They instantly, I could see, oh, this could solve a problem. Yeah. So I think that diversity of like input was helpful. I think also a lot of planning. So it took me like 1.5 years to make that leap. So, you know, I think a lot of planning went into that financially. And for me, you know, I thought I kind of planned, okay, you know, the first couple of years when you're running a business, it's not easy, right? You're just kind of getting off of the ground. So how can I mitigate that transition as much as possible? So I try to think through steps like that for my, not only financially, but time-wise, my family, kind of recognizing that, you know, all of those things have a value and a cost. So I was not as confident as maybe I appeared, but I also was pretty determined. So I had to prove it to myself.
No, I get you. I know many people look at you. I always say people get to see the trees, they don't get to see the seeds, and you don't realize that it's a tree now, but in the beginning it's a seed, and like it was all questionable, and it just was like faith and work. I love it. Dionisa, how about you? What made you confident in taking the pivot?
It took a long time to get there. You know, like you mentioned earlier, I started in 2010 doing stationery, and I just let fear consume me from taking that leap for such a long time, you know, and I, you know, honed in on my skills. And once I made those relationships, you know, then I started to get the confidence, like, yeah, I know what I'm doing. I have this skill. People love my work. That's when the confidence came in. But it, you know, it took a really long time. It wasn't always there. And to be honest, you know, the pandemic really pushed me to want to be an entrepreneur full time. Like all this time I had been running my business as a side thing. You know, I worked a 9 to 5 and then I had my business on the side. So with the pandemic, life started to, the way I looked at life started to change. And I'm like, you know what? My family is my priority. Things like that. That's really what made me focus. Like, yeah, it's time for change. Like, it's time for me to take that step and go full time. And I actually just went full time in April, like so recently. But you know, I look back and I'm like, why didn't I do it sooner? Why, you know, like I know I have the skill. I love what I do. And when you put the love that you have into the work, God got you. Like he's gonna make a way. So so I'm grateful for that. But it took a while. It took a while to get there.
Yeah, no, I love how I appreciate your honesty, and both of your honesty about just how fear can consume you. It is a debilitating emotion.
Yeah.
But both of you overcame that. And so there's probably someone out here that's like, I'm fearing going into this. And you're right, COVID was just such a clarifying moment for so many of us. I want to pivot to this question that came in on Facebook, which is, you need money in your business to make money. So how did you raise funding for your business? How did you go about doing that? Ashleigh?
Sure. So like I said, I started thinking about this about 1.5 years before I actually pulled the trigger. So I saved a lot. I wanted to go quickly. So, you know, I found creative ways and programs, whether it's working with vendors on terms to, you know, get supplies, et cetera, and negotiating those terms was really helpful. Also, you know, just thinking about technology, having an online presence is really helpful to kind of like expand. So, you know, I think through saving, negotiating with vendors on terms was extremely helpful because that gives you a little window to pay, you know, for the goods that you have. And I think also, you know, my store is not as full as it will be because I have a vision of where it is. But I think just thinking through what are products that I want to have day one versus products that I know I want to have in my store at, you know, the first year. Because it takes, you know, particularly for certain brands, you know, there are requirements and applications that if you want to carry a certain brand, you also have to have similar like brands in your store. So I had to really think through, okay, what is like a must have now versus a like to have a year from now, and really plan that. And I'm still working through that. I'm only a few months in, but I think realizing early on that you don't have to buy everything now, you know, and kind of plan it out over time is helpful. And also a lot of the things that, I needed to start my business, like I did myself. So I think that's also when you have a little bit more time, you don't necessarily have to delegate everything. What can last for the first year or two is what I really focused on. So when it came to fixtures, I said, okay, like, where can I get fixtures that are going to last me for the first 3 years that I know fixtures are going to wear down? Those are bookshelves and tables and cash wraps. And those are going to wear over time, right? But what can satisfy me for the short term so that I can gain enough revenue for the long term? So I think that's also something to keep in mind is like, when my cash wrap is a perfect example. I wanted this beautiful long cash wrap is a cash register. And I just was like, this is going to eat into some other like inventory that I want to purchase. Yeah. So like I found a family friend who knew a guy who was a woodworker who did it on the side, and he was like, sure, I've made those before. And that's how I was able to cut my cost in half. So you have to think creatively. You have to realize that you want products in your store, but you don't have to have all the products in your store day one, and kind of think through what is necessary. And I think the last thing I will say is something that really helped me early on was that I listened to the customers. So I came into this day one and said, these are the products that I want to offer, and always wanted feedback. What do you see? What do you not see in the store that you'd like to see? And I think having those, one that I always ask, people wanted simple things like rulers or pens or, the things that I hadn't really considered, but having those things, really created an anchor and a reason for people to come back. So, sometimes you have to think a little bit more strategically than normal.
No, I think that's really great talking about what's the must-have today and what's the must-have a year from now, and how can the client feedback, which is so valuable. I mean, people pay so much for customer insights. How can you let that really build out your business? I love how you thought about like pens and paper. I mean, in addition to stationery, I love pens, and I don't think pens are like, I don't think they have to be. This is one of my favorite pens. Just like how it writes on stationery. So you're right. There's so many ancillary things that you could add in that are a reason for the person to want to come into your store and really building up. How about you, Dionisa? How did you build the capital? The kids pushed you out there. The kids inspired you. Kids have no money. They're all
right. No.
All the children
can't help me in that way.
Yeah, that's right. How did you build capital?
Well, for me, the good thing about it is that I don't have a storefront, so I don't have these overhead or high overhead expenses that I have to worry about having capital. But I was fortunate enough to work a 9-to-5 and have my business on the side. So I saved my money. Everything I made that came in, I saved. I didn't have to have inventory when a client placed an order. That came after I did the design. And so it was a little easier there. But when I started to realize that this is the path I'm looking to go forward, full time, that's when I was like, okay, take advantage, save every penny you're making, save what you can from your paycheck, because when that time comes, that's when you're going to really need it. And so the other thing, thinking about like equipment that I need, like a printer or a laser machine to do the things that I need. I'm now thinking about, luckily I have some funds saved that I can buy some machines that I need, but thinking about, getting business credit, like that's the next step. Thinking about, okay, how do you establish business credit so that you're not constantly funding cash all the time, but you can have that credit to fall on. But yeah, so luckily you don't need a whole lot, and I work from home. I have a little home office. That's how I just save.
So let me ask you both of you have a huge following. Like that's how you got to us. People don't know, people talk about entrepreneurs and they send people's names in, and then we do a little bit of research, and then they come on the show. So you clearly have following. You clearly have a clientele that is very happy that they purchase and work with you. How, the question came in, how did you do that? So how did you build people that are like Paper Herald? You have to, this is Amazing. Willary Lane, you haven't seen her you haven't seen her menu cards. Like you need to figure out how you need to show that on the show. How did you build that sort of clientele, and any tips for other entrepreneurs who are watching who are saying, I'd love to have a following like that. I'd love to have a clientele that, consistently want to come to my business. Ashleigh, how'd you do that?
Well, I think inadvertently I got lucky. So the store that I have is on St. Paul Street, which is the busiest thoroughfare into the city. And I'm right on the corner where there's a light. So this light, I should like donate to this light every year because I have huge windows and I have great frontage. So I think people are just curious. This space has been vacant for so long. And, every time the light stops, I see like people are looking at my website. So I think, the light has helped me. I think people are curious. The spaces that the space has been making and something is new. I think also, in general, just being visible and having a great customer experience. I read a really great quote. It said that people come to small businesses for the experience and what they buy is the souvenir. And that was mentality was like,
oh, I love that. Hold on, I'm about to take that down on my phone. I'm putting that down. Say it again. Someone's taking notes on this.
Basically that people shop at small businesses for the experience and what they buy is the souvenir. And I try to, provide the type of experience that when people come in, they feel very calm, that they feel like, this is the place that they can, kind of tackle their life. They're going to leave with something that's going to help them in their day-to-day life. So I think creating that environment, creating a positive experience is helpful. I mean, you can't win them all, but you try to create a positive experience. And a lot of times, I'm a chatty Cathy sometimes. So I come in and, folks are, sometimes just want to have a conversation. They've perhaps been in COVID, or I'm really close to Mercy Hospital and Johns Hopkins. So perhaps their family member is in surgery. Sometimes people just want to connect with someone else. Yeah. And, something about this bright space and us just chatting about their experience in the store or their just experience in life connects with them. So I am not like a social media whiz in any way. I try to post what I think is authentic and useful, and just try to be myself. That's the best advice that someone gave me, and try to provide that type of experience people are looking for.
I love what you said, that people shop at small businesses for the experience and what they buy as a souvenir. I think you're so right. Location is always important, just for people watching. That light, yeah, you should pay for something for that. If that light goes out, we're in trouble. No, but it's good. It's good. And my dad was a salesman. People buy from people they like, and where because they can buy things. Being honest, you can buy anything anywhere. Mm-hmm. Have a choice. People have as consumers. But I love your element of, as another chatty Cathy, I love your element of making people feel at home and feel like their contribution is important to somebody that, to this world and to that corner. And like, what does that mean for that corner to be occupied and vibrant? Never diminish that. That's huge. And that will keep you eating every day. How about you, Dionisa? What would you say? What's been your strategy?
Yeah, I definitely have to agree with Ashleigh about the experience. Like, the experience you create for a customer is what takes you along the way. Like, for me, just who I am, right? People connect with you. They when I meet people, a lot of times I'll get a message on Instagram or an email that says, hey, what does this cost? I like this. Or, how about I'm interested in getting this design. And I always say, let's have a conversation. I want to learn more about your event. I want to learn more about what you're looking for and how I can help you. And once you make those connections, people either really like you or they're like, they'll move on. But a lot of the times it's just making that connection, and then the experience that you provide. I'm working with you, I'm designing for you, this is solely for your event. And people feel like, yes, this is, helping me show off, like for weddings, for example. This is the piece of paper or card that is going to set the tone for your wedding, right? So I want it to be big. I want it to look nice. I want it to be better than anybody else's. And so when I work with them and make them feel like that's what they're getting and that's the value I bring when I design for them, it really, it says something. So the connections and definitely the experience is what people pay for. They connect to your story. They connect to you as a person. So it's important. I definitely try to be myself. Like just, I'm a chatty Cathy too. I want to know what's going on.
All in the chatty Cathy.
Chatty Cathy unite.
That's right.
I want to know, how did you meet? What's your love story? Like, tell me, So yeah.
I love it. I love it. I love it. So one question that came in, based on both of you, which is what branding marketing considerations do you both make for your business? So you usually are advertising a wedding or you're advertising an event. Ashleigh, you're helping people, advertise themselves. They're picking pieces that represent themselves as they think about the world. So what are the marketing considerations you both make for you or made for your business?
Well, I would say, that's an area that I hope to grow in. I'm like almost tunnel vision on experience at this point, and providing what customers need. And I don't know if that's necessarily the wrong approach, because I think sometimes when you're thinking about becoming an entrepreneur, you can get bogged down into marketing or having a big following. At the end of the day, it's like, do you provide the service that people need in a great experience? And I think that will carry you a really long way. I think of all of those wonderful delis that I've been to that don't have a social media presence, they don't market, but they have a line outside the door because people just love what they produce. So that's something I think that will evolve over time. I participated in Flower Mart, which is really great to just get out of the shop the last couple of weeks and meet folks that I hadn't been able to see in the shop. So I think over time, I would like to expand both social media marketing and traditional forms of marketing. Right now, I'm almost solely focused on the experience because I think that has longevity. And I want to be branded as the place that has great customer service. I feel like that brand will carry
Chick-fil-A.
Exactly.
It is your pleasure. Yes, no, I think they're right. And I think so many brands, you think about the experience and you talk about brands that have stood the test of time, like McDonald's, or, you think about, Macy's. I mean, it is about an experience. Starbucks, it's about an experience and a place, and that drove the brand, right? And so I love the point that you just made. How about you? What Dionisa, branding, marketing?
So I'm a self-taught graphic designer, so I did my own branding. But as far as marketing, word of mouth has always been my biggest push out there. I'm fortunate that when I built these relationships, people like working with me and they like the work that I do. So they're going to refer me to their clients, or, taking advantage of social media is not my strongest suit. I mean, I do have a following and I try to post as much of the work that I do, but I need to be better about being strategic about it and really taking advantage of what it offers, because it really can offer a lot if you do it the right way. But word of mouth has always, for someone who provides more of is service based, like I design to then create a product. You really need those connections to help you, put your brand out there. So yeah.
I love how you talked about, you have the word of mouth and you able to do that. I think the best social media marketing strategy is the one that you all are doing. You deliver good things, good products, and people know about it. And then they tell somebody else, and then they tell someone else, and then it grows. And so don't lose that. That is like So don't think you gotta, this is me, I'm not a business advisor, I'm not a business advisor, but I think that the good product, because once it gets in the web, everybody will know about it, but they'll know that it's real. And so I agree with your point. Let me get to this question. Hold on, let me get to this, and then I'm gonna keep getting to all of the questions that are coming in. Feel free to keep putting them into the chat and on Zoom and texting them in. Let's see your products. Okay, so Dionysa, don't worry, Dionysa has some stuff to show us. I promise you she's gonna wow us. Also, Ashleigh has some things to show us. Prepared to be wild right now. We might get to Oprah today if we're able to. Let's see if we can. Dionysa, show us some of your products.
Sure. So mainly what I do is wedding stationery.
Sit back and just like watch. I love it.
I do a lot of wedding stationery. So as you know, wedding invitations. This is one. It's a gold foil envelope, but the invitation is not a traditional card. It's actually a paper folio. So if you see here, I have the client's monogram, and then when you open the inside, I have to cover this is coming up, so I'm going to cover the address, but yeah, just
I'm
the
going
inside.
to the wedding. I'm going to the
Right,
wedding.
not giving it away. It's gold foil, and then you have 2 card inserts. So this is the RSVP card. And then this is the details card. So the client has a website and more information for their guests.
I love how you can take them out.
Yeah, there's little pockets. So that's where they sit in, and then you close it. Adorable. So it's that experience, right? Like you want your guests to feel like, oh, I want to go to this wedding. I'm not missing it. And then another invitation that's pretty popular is acrylic invitations. So again, it's like a box envelope, and then on the inside is you have your RSVP card. So again, lots of foil to that. Oops.
Oh, I love it.
Gold foil at the top, and then the invitation itself is a clear acrylic invite that has gold foil on it. So see, clear, goes in the envelope. I don't only just do invitations. I do a lot of, day of stationery pieces. So like table numbers and menu cards.
Show them the menu card. Show them the menu.
So this is actually a acrylic menu that sits on the table, and it also functions as a table number.
Hold it up so they can all see it.
So here you have, this is blue acrylic, white acrylic. The menu is foil stamped onto the acrylic. And then on the bottom is part of the design from the wedding. They had these golden blush lotus flowers, as well as the table number. So it sat on the table. Guests would know this is the table they're supposed to sit at, as well as see the menu up front.
So creative. Who came up with that idea? You?
Yeah. So, sometimes you have clients that they want a table number and the menu, and it was like, okay, for their budget, how can we combine it but still have the acrylic, that high-end feel? And so I combined it so that we can show off the menu, but also show what table number they sit at.
Love it.
Another thing I've done, some people do paper menu cards that'll sit on the plate. This couple decided to do a thank you message, and it's gold foil, it's die cut shape, and it's their little message to their guests. So this sat on the table. And if some people wanted a separate menu, this is an acrylic menu that sat on a plate. So it's a little translucent color, and then it's gold on the front. Let me see that. And then I do a lot of different stationery pieces, but I'm getting a lot of requests for acrylic. So like I do drink stirs. So this is the couple's monogram on a drink stir, and it sits at their bar. So I do a lot of different pieces like that. I love thinking outside the box. I still do cards and paper. Like I have another invitation here that's just a card. This one's a little fancier, but it has foil as well. And then the couple's detail card incorporated their engagement photo.
Oh, I like that.
with foil, and then we have an RSVP card
I love it.
that the guests can send back.
You just showing off, Dionysa.
I'm sorry.
I see what you did.
Stationery.
That was all
Like
good.
a full game when you said, I'm gonna show a couple pieces. I'm gonna have people in the comments asking for websites. Don't worry, everyone. We have put the websites in the chat and on Facebook. So don't worry, you will see. You should have both of their websites right now in the chat. I know y'all are going to the websites now. Beautiful, beautiful pieces. Ashleigh, come on, show off too.
Oh, sure. So I carry a lot of things. So I carry notebooks, stationery in general, traditional stationery. I carry pens, some art supplies as well. So this is one of my the brands that I like to carry. I really carry brands from across the world. So this is by a company called The Completist. This is a daily planner for all my planner folks out there, and it has like a nice interior. They are definitely more like geometrical shaped, and they have a lot of cool notebooks. I also have a lot of Japanese brands. So this is Midori. They have wonderful paper that's very fountain pen friendly. So this is like a traditional letter pad. You can see comes in ivory and white. One of the notebooks that I love and brands that I love is Stayology. Hopefully you guys can see
I
it.
love. Yeah, you can't find that everywhere.
Yeah, so they have wonderful grids, very thin grids. So this is 365 days. So you could really take this throughout the year. So this is a favorite amongst students and just folks in the area. I also have carry writing instruments. So here, this is Tomboy. This is another Japanese brand. They have a lettering set. So if you want to letter on your planner or in your bullet journal. I have another brand that's out of California called Shorthand Press. So have some undated calendars. I also carry a lot of books about Baltimore and Maryland. So this is by far the most popular Maryland book that I have, called Wild Women of Maryland. Definitely bought primarily by men. I don't know what they think is in here, but it's about trailblazers in Maryland. Also, local author Odessa, she created this wonderful journal. So this is coming in hardcover soon. And this is great, locals and tourists alike love this as well. I have these little notebooks from Cloth and Paper, which is a wonderful brand out of Richmond. So people really like these little mini notebooks that they can pop into other existing notebooks that they have. I also have some fountain pens. So, June is Father's Day. So I have a lot more fountain pens and other pens coming in. This is a brand that I carry, Kweku. So I have to get this back up on the website. I don't know if you guys can see it. Is this what the Instagrammers do? But this is aluminum. This is aluminum fountain pen. Comes in fine and medium nib. Nib is the tip. And I have a lot of different ink colors and cartridges and converters. Also, they come in these fun colors. So this is like a nice bright orange as well. So more to come on the fountain pens, which people love. People love the jelly roll pens that make people think of high school days. I have a lot of those here. And probably the biggest section that I can't actually move over here is greeting cards. So I have lots and lots of greeting cards. That section is ever expanding. So a lot of people come in for the greeting cards as well.
Someone asked, do you carry wax and stamps?
I do have wax and stamps coming. That was a feedback request from some locals. So I have that coming. So if you send me an email, I'll let you know when that comes. But yes, that was another feedback that I hadn't even considered. And customers said, hey, do you have like wax and stamps for their stationery? So
excellent, excellent. Someone said, yay, I'm going to contact you. So don't worry, you just sold some, I'm glad we sell things on Entrepreneurship Matters. Let me ask you both this question. I hope Jackie is able to tell me that Oprah's watching, but before that, I'll ask this question before she confirms. What you both are just so inspiring. Oh, she said good to go. Okay, Oprah's watching. All right, so let me get to the Oprah question, and then we're gonna get to my last question probably. So Oprah's watching. Oprah Winfrey, Miss Oprah Winfrey is watching. What is your advice to people like Miss Oprah Winfrey, kids who are watching, consumers, people who love stationery and pens and all that? What is your advice that on things that we can do to support and ensure that businesses like yours not only exist, but that they thrive and multiply and just continue to be a part of our community? What are the things that we can do? Ashleigh, I'll start with you and then Dionisa.
Sure. Well, we'd love for you to be customers and consumers, of course. But we understand that, this is a difficult time for a lot of families. So there are other ways that you can support. Sharing word of mouth, as Dionisa said, is huge. For me, I know a part of the business that I want to expand is bulk orders. So, because I have access to so many vendors, even if you're thinking about, hey, I work at Johns Hopkins or I work at a museum, they all love to have cards and journals on hand so they can give to new employees or folks coming back from the workforce. So, even thinking creatively about small businesses, how can you plug them into the organizations that you already work for? Because they're always in the buying business. So I think word of mouth, definitely supporting us if you can. And, I personally always love feedback from customers who say, hey, I'm really looking to buy this online. I want to buy it from you. Can you carry this in the future? I can't promise to carry everything, but that consumer feedback, as you mentioned, Alicia, is really helpful overall and doesn't cost you anything and always is expanding and helping me think outside of the box for what to carry in the store. And I think the last thing I would say is if you have a talent that you can help volunteer for some of your small businesses, perhaps you are a graphic designer or a photographer, or, I have some folks coming tomorrow to help volunteer to put plants in my potters. All of those things help relieve a little bit of the stress of just kind of running a day-to-day business. So if you have a gift that you can also volunteer, that is really huge and will go a long way for our businesses, but for your local small businesses that you would love to support.
I love how you just said that. I never even thought I should take a plant. I bet that would be a nice, seriously, you just talked about that. And somebody might have one in their garden. They may not be able to afford, but they could contribute to the beautiful corner that you have on St. Paul, right?
Yes.
Absolutely. Dionisa, how about you? What give all of us from Miss Winfrey to the children watching, what can we all do to support?
So for me, it's more of a question for entrepreneurs like myself. You learn how to start a business, you learn how to operate. How can you and your platforms support businesses like myself who want to scale up and move on to the next level, whether it's finding mentors or even investors? How can you help businesses like me move to that next step? Because I feel like sometimes that's where you get stuck. It's oh, you're successful, you've done this and you've done that, and there's so much out there that you can research on how to run a business, how to start, how do you operate. But when it's time to expand, I feel like a lot of entrepreneurs, that's where we get stuck. How can I expand? And you've thought about everything that you can. What's that? How can you get to that next level? And sometimes you just need help. It's connecting with somebody who has the experience, or reaching out to, investors. How do you do that? How can you help us?
That's right. I love how you said that. And I'm going to give a plug for the Goldman Sachs 10,000 Small Business Program. We are the whole site. We can make sure you get into that program. I know a couple people. I can make sure I put in a good word, but the growth point of the businesses, I completely agree with. Let me get this last question in, and then I'm going to thank everyone who's been on here. One, this has been an absolute pleasure. Both of you are just pure sunshine and joy. And it's so exciting to hear about your journeys to this point and to have full confidence that your best days are ahead of you. And so for all of us watching, what is on the horizon? What's next for you all? And you can even sprinkle in there any way that we can support. You already told us a couple of ways, but any ways we can support. So what's next, Ashleigh?
So what's next? Like I said, I have like a 1-year goal that of products that I would like to carry. I think probably long-term, definitely expanding into other, expanding other stores. Definitely want to get into more customized stationery, as Dionisa is, trailblazing in to offer, because I get a lot of requests from lawyers and doctors who want to, have stationery. So just thinking creatively about how that could work for the business model. So that's probably the next couple of years.
I love it. I love it. I agree. It's beautiful. Dionysa, how about you? What's next?
So what's next for me, I mentioned I just started as an entrepreneur full-time. So that was a big step for me. On the horizon, I'm expanding. So with the pandemic and everything that happened, my family took a leap and moved to Florida. So still doing a lot of work in the DMV area, but we're registered now in Florida and looking to expand. And part of that expansion, I am working on an online shop for ready to order items. So sometimes people just like, I really love this design you did. I just want to buy that, so I want to have some of those pieces available that people can purchase. And it also, explores going nationwide, right? It doesn't have to be in our local area. And then long term, I would love to have a storefront. I would love to have,
I would love collaboration coming.
Yes. I would love to have, ready to order pieces that people can come in and pick from a catalog, be able to have the equipment needed to make some of these beautiful acrylic pieces, and hire staff. Like that's long-term goal. I would love to do that. But for now, in the next couple months, you will see, I will have an online store with some pieces that people can just purchase instead of going through the whole custom route. So yeah, it's exciting.
Excellent. Excellent. I want to again, thank you both for appearing on Entrepreneurship Matters. Let me give in 3 minutes, let me give all your .coms. Okay, if y'all can go on quickly, I'm gonna let you do it. Dionysa, give us all of your .coms and your @.
Okay, so .com is Willary Lane, WILORI Lane.com. At Willary Lane on Facebook and Instagram. I don't remember. I think it's Dionisa Ortiz on LinkedIn. Yes. And yeah, you can reach me by email, hello@willarylane.com, or, on social media.
Excellent. How about you, Ashleigh? What is your .coms and your @? Give them all to us.
Sure. So my website is Paper Herald, PAPERHERALD.com. My email is info@paperherald.com, and Facebook and Instagram are @the Paper Herald.
Excellent, excellent. Let me thank both of you. Let me thank everyone for watching. Please come back next week to Entrepreneurship Matters. I promise you this is going to be a great one again. This is all about that special sauce. We are featuring Liana Kwashi from Camilla's Kitchen, as well as Tiara Chen with Yorktown Spice. I promise you, you're going to love the sauce that we're going to be serving next week. We want to thank our partners, Johns Hopkins University, Johns Hopkins Health System, Hopkins Local, the Mayor's Office of Small Minority Women-Owned Business, Goldman Sachs 10,000 Small Business, Bloomberg Philanthropies. Please email us feedback, jhconnects@jhu.edu. Thank you, Ashleigh. Thank you, Dionysa.